Thank you so much, Hillary. This is the power of community being demonstrated. You know, as we were looking for who would help us have entertainment or share an offering, because I don't think it's just entertainment. I think it's a cultural offering to help us be grounded and understand that we're here in community after we've been isolated for so long. Can we give a hand for ourselves coming out in community? There was a community member who had heard Hillary play and said we needed to have her here at Community Day. That's the power that we have in working together. And so I am so glad and honored that you all have come to Community Day, UROC's Community Day. We haven't been together in so long. And the last time we were together, I was brand new in this role. And I'm so excited. I'm going to try not to ramble, but everybody I see in this room has been a part of this community in so many ways. We've got young people here who grew up in this community who are giving back. We have seniors. We have folks who are second or third generation who grew up on 9th and Humboldt, and whose parents were flappers, who are trying to preserve our communities, our community institutions like synagogues that had then turned into churches. We have university folks who've been a part of UROC since the beginning. We've got our first architect here. He worked with a group of people he likes to say he worked with, but Chuck Levine, if you could stand up for a quick moment. Yes, yes. I am just happy that you all have decided to come and share with us, and I'm going to get out of the way and introduce our president, Gable, who's going to have a few words, but I want to let you know who's going to be speaking today. One of the practices that we've gotten into is not really honoring, you know, when you're in your 20s, you know, forgive me, some of you 20-year-olds who have some good home training, but when you're in your 20s, a lot of times you think that you were the first one to come up with an idea, that nobody knew anything before you ever showed up. And sometimes we practice that in some of our institutions. And so what we wanted to do was recognize all of the folks who helped to make this happen, who helped UROC come to be. So we are looking at our executive directors and having them speak, and our assistant executive director, because we all hold it down. And so I'm going to introduce everybody who's just going to let you know who's going to be here. So we have Heidi Barajas, who is now the Vice Provost and Interim, that's what I thought I heard. Okay, all right. We have Heidi Barajas, who is my boss. Office for Public Engagement. We have Geoffrey Maruyama. So Jeff, Heidi, and Rose Brewer were a part of a tri-head team who came in right after our founding executive director, Irma McClaurin. And right after Irma McClaurin, we hired the first assistant executive director, which was Wokie Freeman. And then when Wokie decided to leave us all hanging, before Wokie left us hanging, Heidi came in as our executive director. Wokie and Heidi held it down during the tornado. You remember that? Went right into community. We brought food out. We made sure that we worked with the city to make sure folks got what they needed. And then when Wokie left us hanging, then James and I got to hang out and take over some duties. James, and I'm recognizing James DeSoto because he's the assistant executive director. He did not want to be on that wall, but we wanted him on the wall, so you just know that. All right. So now that I've done that, I am so thankful again. I'll try not to say thank you any more times, but I am happy that my family is here. My son is here, and my first cousin, who is my double cousin. And Elder Atum is in the audience. Sam Simmons is in the audience. We've got community here because this is about a community university partnership. We've got Ms. Hazel Tanner. We've got Sherry Pugh. Sherry Pugh let's give her a hand. Can you stand, Sherry, or wave your hand? Sherry Pugh was the person who said, if the university is going to come, we got to talk to community and decide how this is going to work. So it was a community university partnership. So now I'm going to get out of your way. I thank you all for allowing me to ramble. I'm very happy that you are all here, including Ms. Laurel Hurt, who's one of my sister organizations, and our research agenda folks, Fernando Berga, and Sharon Powell, who's with Extension. And I know that I get excited naming people, and I'm not supposed to be doing that. We will now hear from our president. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, beloved friend and excellent human Makeda, and welcome, university colleagues and community members. I'm University of Minnesota President Joan Gable, and I am so very pleased to be a part of this year's UROC Community Day. While I'm attending this celebration virtually, please know that I am with you in spirit, and I remember my experience at the last in-person UROC Community Day with great appreciation. In recognition of this year's Community Day theme, the promise of partnership, and its focus on UROC leadership past and present, I'd like to offer a few personal thoughts on leadership. So this afternoon, you'll hear from 5 of UROC's past executive directors who have helped UROC live into its promise of partnership. Each leader did it with a style all their own, with help from a dedicated staff and talented community partners. As former U.S. President John Quincy Adams noted, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader. Inspiration and the ability to inspire is an essential element of leadership, indeed perhaps the most important part. And while vision and inspiration are critical, leadership also requires having trust and faith in colleagues and partners by allowing them to exercise their own strengths and apply their knowledge, training, and lived experience. So it's no surprise that UROC has emerged from the most challenging days of the pandemic with nearly 50 new university community research and outreach projects involving dozens of new community partners. So while today's Community Day program gives us the opportunity to hear from UROC's past leaders, I also want to recognize the leadership on all levels that has continued to help UROC take steps into the future. It's now my pleasure to introduce University of Minnesota Executive Vice President and Provost Rachel Crowson. As the university's Chief Academic Officer, Provost Crowson is responsible for fostering the academic excellence of the educational and research missions of the university and providing leadership for undergraduate, graduate, and professional education. She's also a key contributor to the university's commitment to community engagement and fulfilling the promise of MPACT 2025, the university's system-wide strategic plan, a plan that fosters community engagement in all we do and in strengthening university community partnerships, the kind of partnerships that UROC exemplifies so very well. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this celebration, and please enjoy the program.
Good afternoon, friends and colleagues and Goldy. I am so delighted to join Makeda in welcoming you to UROC's 12th Annual Community Day, and I'm even more delighted that we're celebrating it in person. I had the chance to tour the building earlier today. This was my first time, and I'm so impressed by the number and variety of community-based projects happening here, as well as the talents and dedication of the researchers and the community partners involved. I'm thrilled to be an event where I can meet you, so thank you all for coming. Many of you know UROC as the front door to the University of Minnesota, a community gathering place for ideas through its Critical Conversations discussion series, and a place where university scholars and residents connect and work shoulder to shoulder. It's also a place to view and experience community art, and I got a chance to see some of the amazing art throughout the building. But as provost of this university, I'd also like to mention that UROC's work in community engagement and reciprocal partnerships is a national model. It's one of the reasons that the University of Minnesota stands as a shining example of public engagement among all American colleges and universities. As President Gable mentioned, the University of Minnesota's strategic plan recognizes that our most successful partnerships with communities, businesses, governments, and educational institutions and nonprofits are reciprocal, where discoveries are co-created. To have the kind of impact that we seek, sustained change for the better, the university must work with communities across our state in ways that incorporate not only our own expertise and resources, but also the assets and the knowledge and the experience that communities bring to our collaborations. These efforts take not only teamwork, but also leadership, which brings us to this year's Community Day theme, delivering on the promise of partnership. As Makeda mentioned, Today's speakers are leaders who have led UROC in the past and who have delivered on UROC's promise of partnership. As these leaders have impacted UROC, their experience at UROC also changed them and challenged them to become the leaders, visionaries, and people that they are today. So please now join me in welcoming UROC's first executive director, Ms. Irma McClaurin, and she's going to share with us some of her own thoughts. So welcome, Irma.
UROC was my baby, and it's nice to see her all grown up, 13 years old. It's hard to believe that that much time has passed. And let me just say that everyone thinks that this happened with a huge staff, but there was myself, Makeda, Zulu, who was my community coordinator, so it's nice to see that arc of her leadership development, and Hawana Sullivan Jansen, who put together the gallery materials and stuff that made it move from just something that you would do to an entire event. And we had one admin assistant, and that was it. That was what brought this building together. Anyone can show up to work in a community, but authentic community engagement begins with two conditions. One, respect for the community and a belief that they hold valuable knowledge is paramount. And two, a willingness for those of us who have power to suspend our tendency to always be the expert and be in control. Bringing the UROC vision to fruition as the founding executive director from 2007 to 2010 taught me many things as a transformational leader and created many opportunities to learn. With one foot in the community and one foot in the university, UROC was an anthropologist's dream and gave me a vantage point that revealed many things, and there is always a backstory. I learned that academics dislike giving up power and control, that we in the academy believe our expertise is more valuable than other forms of knowledge because we write books and publish refereed articles. Also, we fail to see that our intellectual arrogance is often a huge barrier to the success of authentic community engagement. I've carried my UROC experiences forward as a core component of my leadership toolkit. What UROC taught me was about what it takes to establish an authentic community engagement and partnership. Relationships, relationships, relationships with supporters and naysayers alike. Here are a few principles that have guided me as a transformational leader and authentic community engagement practitioner. Practice humility, show respect, avoid trying to be the smartest a-hole in the room, put community needs over your institutional needs, have a willingness to leverage and use the superpowers of our privilege as institutions and institutional actors to benefit the communities we claim to serve and partner with, and stop asking what's in it for us as leaders and staff. This is even more paramount for land-grant institutions that have a mandate to give back to the public good. For as individual scholars, actors, or as institutional representatives with power and position, we must not take any more to enhance our privilege. Rather, we should be content to know that we did the right and righteous thing in supporting underserved communities to flourish and thrive. Today, 13 years old, UROC stands as a unique example of can-do. Props to the architects and construction company who demonstrated their leadership and made the building reflect key values of transparency, cultural, and community involvement. I do not think it is an overstatement to say that UROC is possibly the only place-based university outreach engagement center in the United States that is physically located in a historically underserved community and which is now under the transformational leadership of a daughter of the Northside community. I'm proud to have been a part. I'm proud to have been a part of this sustainable venture. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So I'm supposed to follow, Ms. Irma? Okay. Well, I had to put some of my thoughts on paper, or on my phone actually, to keep them all in place. Well, I always feel like it's a homecoming every time I step into these walls, and you know, I always have such wonderful memories and emotions. But I am deeply honored and humbled to join these distinguished leaders today to share a few words about my leadership journey. But I cannot speak about leadership and my time at UROC without remembering and mentioning my parents. They provided shining examples of selfless service and dedication during my childhood in Liberia and here in Minnesota after our family was forced to flee the Liberian Civil War in 1990. Together, they supported me through every dip and turn in my career and life. In fact, they attended quite a few of the UROC Community Day celebrations over the years, especially while I was here. So my mother, Famata Freeman, is here with us today. But sadly, we lost my father in August of 2021 after a rapid decline due to dementia. But I know that he's here in spirit. So I've been very fortunate to find myself in situations faced with opportunities where I have had to take a leap of faith and get outside of my comfort zone and into a season of learning. I love the saying, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I live by that sentiment. I am extremely grateful that the University of Minnesota and Dr. Robert Jones gave me one of those amazing shots and entrusted me to step into a leadership role at UROC. I was so excited, and I jumped in with both feet. From the beginning, I was embraced by the North Minneapolis community, including a cohort of women leaders who welcomed me into the fold. I learned about how to engage in mutually beneficial relationships while recognizing and acknowledging past hurts and the dynamics of power and privilege. In fact, one of the quotes I learned from our dear colleague and sister turned executive director, Ms. Makeda here, that continues to resonate with me to this day is by Lilla Watson, Aboriginal elder, activist, and educator from Queensland, Australia. And it's here in quotes, "If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. If you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." I learned how to lead by example and with empathy and grace. I learned how to invest in people and empower them to live up to their full potential. At UROC, I learned how to take a step back so others could step up into their own leadership. I learned the importance of personal and caring relationships in a workplace culture. We laughed together and cried together. We sat in circle together and supported each other and the community during tragic and turbulent times. I could go on and on. But I will close by saying that my tenure at UROC undoubtedly shaped my purpose and values about leadership. And I will continue to take that with me through the rest of my life. And I've been able to encapsulate my thoughts in this way. Because of my faith, family, and the grace that I've been given, I encourage and serve others as a connector and a catalyst for positive change. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As Makeda said, I'm Geoffrey Maruyama, and I was one of the 3 directors that followed Irma. And thank you for inviting me back. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's great to see UROC flourishing and in great hands. I came with kind of a different orientation. I'd been an engaged researcher working with schools for probably 3 decades at that point, and a lot of what the focus for me was is try to see if we can apply, if I could apply that research to working with communities. So I'd like to note, as you all know has been said, UROC's a unique place. It's our commitment to research and engagement centers for an urban age. Those of you remember, the research and outreach centers started in the rural areas around land-grant issues like animals and plants. But as we move from an agricultural age to an urban age, we really needed to re-envision our idea of what a research and engagement center and research and outreach. We thought engagement was much better, but UROC really doesn't sound quite as good as UROC. I hope that future University of Minnesota leaders will continue to share the commitment to community engagement that former President Brunick's and Senior Vice Presidents Jones had, and continue to encourage and support long-term, sustainable partnerships that address the North Side's primary issues. I want to note as a sidebar that, like Wokie, I had to write things down, but unlike Wokie, I can't read my phone anymore. So it's big print. So it won't be long, it's only 1 page. I was asked to reflect by Makeda to reflect experiences during my time at UROC and how it affected my career. My work here was jump-started by a grant that we got from Fund for the Improvement of Post-Secondary Education from the U.S. Department of Education on how universities can work better with communities. It gave us an opportunity to work in the community with after-school providers. That group organized itself, became the Northside Out-of-School Time Group, which I think is still the Northside Achievement Zone Out-of-School Time Group, with school gardening and nutrition projects around the area of health, and with youth internships. So we had a group around kind of entrepreneurship, around health, and around education, and brought community people together. One of the serendipitous positive outcomes resulted from our convening people from across the community who for various reasons didn't know each other, but who did similar work. It was really one of my best experiences of watching people pull their calendars up after our meetings and agree to have lunch or get together, and realize that the university serves a really important convening function. I hope that we continue that important role as conveners here at UROC and continue to create and build relationships across the community as well as between the university and the community. As our grant came to its end, we hoped to get funding so we could see how our work compared to work being done by other community-engaged universities. Unfortunately, FIPSI canceled some of their open calls, and then the Trump administration basically killed FIPSI by defunding it. Fortunately, as that was happening, there was a different FIPSI program focused on increasing college success of students from backgrounds underrepresented in post-secondary education. And we took some of our partnerships, and Andy Furco was a co-PI, and he got us the University of Georgia as a new partner. So we had 6 universities, and we focused on how does community engagement of college students, particularly from underrepresented backgrounds, help them stay in college and be successful in college. We were able to document benefits across all 6 sites of 6 very different research universities: City University of New York, University of Georgia, University of Illinois Chicago, University of Memphis, of course here at University of Minnesota, and University of California at Santa Cruz. The partnership research I did at UROC continues to shape my current work as we continue to look for ways of improving academic successes of college students of color and other underrepresented students. So thank you again for letting me be part of a great University of Minnesota initiative and for inviting me to reflect on my experiences.
How could we have this day and not have you here, Jeff? I think that just would be silly. Good afternoon, everyone. Like it's been expressed already, it's coming into these doors is like coming home. And one of the reasons is because you get to be who you are when you walk into this building. You get to be your great self, and you get to be your still learning self, and you get to be the person with faults, and you get to be all of those things, and people still love you. And you don't find that in very many places. As I looked at the word partnership, okay, this is off script, but I got to say it. It dawned on me, my probably most successful partnership has been as a single parent to 4 children. But it dawned, thank you. Right? It's the best partnership I have and continue to have. And I bring that up because it dawns on me that's what it often feels like when you get to work at an entity like this one. It's sometimes why also we have our highest highs and our lowest lows, because they matter so much to us. But I'll have to tell you that the first part of my adult life, not quite half, but almost, was actually spent as a classical musician. Some of you know that. And I learned from my mentors in that situation, and I was quite young, and I was always worried about being in the room with these much more experienced and talented people kind of looking around going, why am I here? And I remember I remember Patrick Tavernier. You won't know his name, but believe me, he's a big guy. He used to be a director for the Met, and I was doing work in Los Angeles, and I remember him saying to me, why do you think like that? He said, your job is to always be in the room with people who are better than you are, because that makes you your best self. And I mean, through my entire life, regardless of what my workplace was, I have always remembered this. And I pulled that into my learning in aspects of not only life, but in terms of leadership. I believe to this day that surrounding myself with people who have gifts and strengths that I do not possess and will probably never possess is what makes me my best person. And UROC certainly demonstrated that for me. And it clarified for me that ultimately, if I am to define myself as an engaged leader, it means it's someone who seeks partnership, but continually strives to sustain those partnerships, to make them better, to make them deeper, and make them stronger. Here's the catch. Engagement's a lot like democracy. It's really messy. And the other thing is, it's quite frankly an experiment. And one of the things I appreciate most about UROC is that when Robert Jones had the vision for this, he knew it was an experiment. And what I appreciate about the leaders I currently have is that they also understand that this is an experiment, and some of them will be gloriously successful, and some of them will have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how do we do this differently in order to make it work the way we all meant for it to work. Either way, there's strength. There's strength in success, and there's strength in it sort of not falling the way we want it to, as long as we're willing to have the humility to go back and take a look at what did we really intend. Is this what we meant to have happen? I'm grateful for my time at UROC, for the space to learn and grow, because even though I was a little bit of an old codger even that time, I'm older now, but I was old then too, let me tell you, this was the most freeing learning and growing space I've ever been in. That doesn't mean everybody was happy with me, but it does mean that there were enough people that allowed me to learn and grow and continue to do that and to offer me that opportunity, such as I have the opportunity now to be your boss. I'm grateful for this time. I have great faith in and believe in this continuing messy experiment that we call UROC, because I think it gives us all a shared vision that we can continue to work on. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Higgins, and I want to preface my remarks by saying I was an interim leader at UROC, and being an interim leader or a gig leader, as temporary executive positions are now known, is a very privileged position, because there's an assumption of competence, no necessity to become embroiled in the politics, and the opportunity to be immediately useful by looking at an organization with fresh eyes. So it makes you appear smart, and you're really not. You're just looking at something from the outside that people who are on the inside and working in the trenches every day might have missed. My 16 months at UROC were honestly some of the happiest and most meaningful of my working life. Your place on Plymouth Ave in North Minneapolis really energized my leadership skills for 3 reasons. One, the U is clearly an amazing employer. They always, it seemed to me anyway, gave UROC, the experiment that was UROC, the benefit of the doubt. So with Andy Furco at the helm and with Heidi close at hand, I had freedom, and leaders need freedom. Number two, the staff at UROC when I arrived was incredibly diverse, passionate about the work, full of latent talent, fun to interact with, and open to change. So at UROC, I had a great team to work with, and that's the other thing leaders need. They need a good team. Three, UROC is in a place, North Minneapolis, where friends are made easily, and where the institutions, whether it's the small businesses or the community organizations, really want their community to be better. And in this kind of work, leaders need a willing community, and UROC has that. Let me add that coming to the Twin Cities was a totally new and exhilarating experience for me. I moved to downtown Minneapolis at age 65 from upstate New York. I knew all of one person in Minnesota, and I soon found myself walking across the Stone Arch Bridge every night and gabbing with bus drivers who wore Vikings caps and experiencing Super Bowl concerts downtown in 8 degrees below zero weather, and walking down to the Dakota to hear Wee Willie Walker on Sunday afternoons. The staff, however, was quick to remind me that all was not as sunny as it appeared on the surface in the Twin Cities. And I recall very well James and Makeda telling me that the area where more progress needed to be made was in police community relations. I recall coming into the building one day and looking at that conference room on the right, the one with the big glass window, and seeing members of the force talking with neighborhood teens. And I've reflected often on that over the past 2 years, always with really great admiration for UROC's current leader, Makeda, for tackling the toughest issues, including the dynamic of trauma, long before I arrived. So despite and because of it, everything that has occurred in Minneapolis since I left, I think that UROC will be a place where leadership grows for many years to come. Freedom to act, a great team, and a willing community. My only regret is that I took this assignment at the end of my career rather than in the beginning or the middle, because I think I would have moved there and spent my life in your community had I come there sooner. So thanks for asking me to talk.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you, UROC, for allowing a guy like me to close the ceremony out. My name is Mike Coach Tate. A lot to be said for 43 years of volunteer coaching in North Minneapolis, but the city of Minneapolis. Because everywhere you go, if you say Coach Talley, somebody's gonna know me. And they're gonna say, that guy. And I say that to say this, is I stand on the shoulders of the Phyllis Wheatley director, Cozy Breelove, the director at Hospitality House, Herb Fiffner, Spike Moss, Bernadette Anderson, Makeda's mother and her father. I'd be once to remiss that is why I do what I do. You may see me get a little emotional, but that's just a love for my community. Currently, right now, while I'm not coaching football, we started a program called the Northside Bulldogs. And you may have seen us out there picking up litter in our neighborhood in North Minneapolis, where we own the most drains in North Minneapolis, 300 of them. So give yourself a hand for that, your drain being cleaned by young people. And not only do they clean the drains, but they clean the streets. And I want to say to y'all, we started that before the impact of COVID, because we reimagined ourselves in a community that could deliver something of importance, where community could look out their windows and say, what are those kids doing? And Coach did it intentionally to make our community understand that our youth are out there picking up your litter, because it's not garbage. Understand, somebody threw it out there. Your garbage goes in the can, hence why we call it litter. And again, it's important for our young people to understand in our community, to be involved in our community, even during COVID. I want to thank this organization for looking inside itself to provide that space out there to allow us, our coalition, which is Seeds to Harvest MN. If you go look, we have been doing work for over 3 years in this community as a coalition. We, not I, not you, not they. It was a we coalition with some of the funnest people in the world that work for this University of Minnesota outreach, the gut health people, the folks that came and set up tables for us as we painted the Black Lives mural that, again, was probably the most impressive Black Lives mural because it wasn't yellow and black. It took 19 artists to put it out there on the hottest day of the summer, and we really made it happen. And it went global on ESPN, if you all haven't noticed, so give yourself a hand. UROC and the community. This organization and this collaboration that we put together will continue as a we organization. The collaborative, the partnership that you talk about, the leadership and the trust that I hear from my experienced people, because I'm one of them too. This love for this building, this space. I mean, there's even a bathroom. Many of you don't know that when we spent many hours, we didn't have nowhere to go during COVID. And all I could do was lean over and say, kids, go over there. Somebody put a spot there, and I don't know who does. I believe in the spirit, so maybe he dropped it off. But I say this, going forward with UROC and what we see as an organization that is blessed in community, like I am, creating these attempts to change young people's lives like we are. This collaborative organization of 82 different people that's our NCs that many people don't even know about. They hear about it. You see us on TV, but you're like, what do they really do? We're collaborative, we're a connector like you. Connecting people to outreach, connecting people to trauma, connecting people to basketball. We put on the 28 days of the City of Lake game when nobody else was doing anything in our community. But we had a mission. So how are the children? And that's our goal. I believe if you can change a child, you can change a family. And I know that. I've been doing it 43 years. So I know the impact that we have if we all do it together. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here, Makeda. You know how much this community means to me, and it always will. And we welcome y'all to join us at any given time. We have a saying, it's only 1 hour. If all of us gave 1 hour of service in our community, whatever community that you're in, you don't know how much an impact you can make. Thank you very much.
Coach Mike Talley. Got Brett Buckner in the back here. All right, so I'm gonna close out. But before I close out, you know, we've got a lot of wonderful people in the room, and I cannot name everybody. But if you were a part of UROC before, if you were a part of UROC or the University Northside Partnership before 2009, can you just stand? Some are standing. Please. Yes. Yes. It's Jan Rainey in the back giving kisses. Fantastic. Another family that's a pillar in this community, the Rainey family, has done a lot. And now I would like to ask all of the UROC current staff to stand. If you're in here. Okay. All right. All of our staff is not in here. You know that UROC has both affiliates and signature programs, which are now the research agenda. All of the UROC affiliates, would you please stand? Whether you are a staff or faculty or community partner. Yes. If you are a community organization that showed up today, can you stand, wave your hand? Community organizations, yeah, I know you're in here. Okay, all right. All right, so I want to thank our staff, our team, we are a small but mighty group of people that make things happen, and I know that sometimes we are fit to be tied, but we bring our best and we bring our full selves, and we have tough conversations with each other. We still have more to have sometimes, but that's okay because that helps us grow, because that's really where we're at in our whole world, right? We're not having real conversations. We're stepping on each other's toes and not telling folks ouch and not telling folks sorry, and so we got to speak up and say, you're stepping on my toe. And then I get to say, I'm sorry I stepped on your toe, because that's what I'm supposed to say first. Sorry I stepped on your toe, but you know what, I didn't feel your toe. You know, and so you tell me, you know, so we got to have those conversations, because this isolation that has happened through COVID has helped us to kind of turn way inward in some really negative ways. We need each other, we need community, we have to have conversation. I want to make sure that, you know, I wanted to make sure that I thank the UROC team. I also wanted to thank Mr. Andy Furco. Yes, Andy Furco. So Andy Furco and Irma McClaurin came in at the same time, 2008. I won't go on about that, but I'll just say that they both came in at the same time. So Andy's been a part of this for a long time, and I thank him for his leadership and his continued support of myself. I know he supports Heidi, and that's how we get things done, by continuing to keep those threads moving forward. I'm glad you're here. All right. So with that, I just want to say thank you all for being here today. Make sure that you eat some food, and there is something else that, yes, we have one more thing to share. Thank goodness for a team, right? Yes. Provost, will you come and share? Yes. So each of our executive directors are receiving a recognition, you know, there are words we have to use, a recognition for the incredible work that they've done, and we'd love to hear you read what that says.
Robert J. Jones Urban Research and Outreach Engagement Center. This certificate of recognition is presented to Wokie Freeman, I'm not going to get this last one right. All right. On UROC Community Day, Thursday, September 15th, 2022, in deep appreciation of your visionary leadership and ongoing support for UROC.
So if all of the executive directors could just stand one more time, executive directors and assistant executive directors, and just turn around, let folks, yeah, take a look.